So welcome to another Behind the Team. Today we're talking about Hannibal Barca himself, the base set of Command Colors Focus, and today we're talking about the less known facts about him. And the reason why I feel the less known facts are much more important is because most people who buy Command Colors probably already have a cursory knowledge of Hannibal. And from personal experience, the issue with people, the great men is like Napoleon, Hannibal, Alexander, is as you go through books and documentaries, so then they tend to repeat the same information as they should to give the full story, but it can get a bit boring when a whole documentary you spend like hour or so watching it, or how many hours reading it, and you don't learn anything new. So these are some facts which I hope are new to you, and it's definitely aimed at someone who knows about Hannibal but maybe hasn't gone and delved more deeply. So let's get into it. Now, the first fact that I found really interesting was, of course, Hannibal Barca. Barca was a family, and when his father Hamilcar set up a new settlement in Spain, he named the capital Barcino. Now, Barcino, in modern day time, that city is called Barcelona, and you can see just how history just moves on, and here's the thing, I study history, even for a degree, and when I first heard this, I was surprised. Once you hear it, it's such a clear thing, like Barcelona, Barca. And the other thing is Carthage, especially if you watch the old documentaries, they don't know where it is. But archaeologists are nowadays pretty confident that it is one day Tunis, Tunisia. And two Latin lines you can use when playing Command Colors, or especially with the second line, you can use in any other game, is one is Hannibal Hearts Posters. Hannibal is at the gates. Again, you can replace that with your own name and make it sound really fearsome. Or by Cato, after Hannibal was defeated and everything, for the Third Punic War, which destroyed Carthage with the sowing assault and all, where he said, "Carthago delanda est." Carthage must be destroyed. And you just replace, of course, the Carthago with anything you want. Example, the person is called Jim delanda est. I use it all the time and I love it. And I feel the Latin is a great oratory language. The thing also about the Punic War, Second Punic Wars, is it really, although I don't feel it legitimizes fully, but it really does show the great man theory of history. Now, there are two forms of history. One is the cyclical one, which is by population growth and everything. Things will happen. Compared then with, especially in ancient history, where only great men get talked about, the history moves on due to very unique individuals coming into play. And with the Second Punic War, that's very true with Hannibal, because all the major decisions that affected really the whole world was really made by Hannibal and another family, which was Scipio's. So these two dynasties really made and affected the world. I mean, one of the decisions, of course, is what if Hannibal, after Cannae, had marched straight to Rome? And if Rome had surrendered, who knows? Another thing that I didn't learn till later on when I started to read his campaigns in detail was, because a lot of the statues you see of Hannibal, he has both eyes and everything, is that he, later on in his life, halfway through the campaign in Italy, he actually got an infection in his eyes, and he actually lost one eye. Alright, and he lost it in swamp disease. So that's another thing that's, again, nowadays they tend to portray it that way, but before, when I was a kid, if you Google images of Hannibal, he has both eyes and everything. So one thing is, this guy was so dedicated, even when he lost an eye, he, like Philip of Macedon, he just continued that campaign. And the thing is, Hannibal did actually get to the gates of Rome. He did, but unfortunately he did it 5 years too late. After Cannae, 5 years he didn't march on Rome, which I felt was justified. I don't think he had the troops, and after 6 hours of hacking Romans, I doubt the army was fit enough to go attack a walled city. So after 5 years, Hannibal was trying to turn cities against Rome. Unfortunately, that plan wasn't really working out. But one of the second biggest city in Italy, Capua, had turned, and the Romans was besieging them. Now, Hannibal being Hannibal, he didn't just go attack them because, well, he felt there was a better way to do it. He really wanted to relieve Capua by attacking Rome. Of course, he was never going to assault the walls. He just thought that the army would turn around and have to come protect Rome. So he got all the way to the gates of Rome, causing a huge panic and everything. But the Romans by then had started to use Flavian tactics. And the thing is, they didn't have the force to kick Hannibal off the field in front of Rome. But neither did Hannibal have to attack them. So both sides just stayed there. The Capua siege went on. And in fact, the Romans by then were so confident that they were winning the war that the Senate auctioned off the land Hannibal's army was on at full price. So Polybius says. But that's just amazing history, isn't it? You know, by then it just showed about the Romans, how dedicated they are to the point, and how they knew how to play politics here, you know. I mean, just think if you're a regular Roman hearing this, like, hey, we can't possibly lose. Look, the Senate's that confident. The other thing weird about the Second Punic War was that in all the major battles, you know, Trebia, Lake Trasimene, Cannae, and then Zama, the side with less troops won. Now, that's the strange part about the Second Punic War, after you study it a bit, is if I told you in a war, the side with less troops wins every single major battle, you would tend to go like, well, give me more details. If not, like, I think that's unlikely. And that's what happened in the Second Punic War. Hannibal, every time he had less troops in major battles, alright, always won. At Zama, when he finally outnumbered the Romans, then he lost. And in fact, if you see all these battles, one of the other factors is, of course, the Numidian cavalry. Whoever had them won. Alright? Which, interesting fact about the Numidians, they were fearsome warriors. In fact, all the way back to Thutmose, the greatest warrior pharaoh there is, I think he has the best record of victories in his life for Egyptian pharaohs. He too, his elite units were the Numidians. So, you know, I mean, as a warrior culture, the Numidians had a very strong one in the ancient world. And the strange thing, of course, is like I said, everything about the Second Punic War is really interesting. The other thing is the mirroring. When the Romans were told to use Flavian tactics, they disagreed, and then every time they didn't do it, they lost. Alright, it was until they started picking that up that they started to win against Hannibal. Now, the same thing happened. Hannibal came back to protect Carthage, and he too proposed Flavian tactics to delay basically the Romans in Africa. And what did the Senate in Carthage do? They committed the exact same mistake as the Romans did in the earlier part of the Second Punic War. They went out to fight instead of delaying, except there was an issue. The Carthaginians did not have the constant manpower and will to continue the war like the Romans did. And of course, that's why they lost the Second Punic War. And at the end of it, you know, a lot of people always say that Hannibal should have won the war. And that is true if the situation of the Romans, really the mentality of the Romans. When you actually look at the full campaign, it's actually quite amazing. You have to understand that even though they were suffering so badly in Italy, Rome was actually fighting several wars at the same time they were fighting Hannibal. They were fighting in Greece, they were fighting in Illyria, Sicily, southern Gaul, and Spain. So here's the thing, they always had armies elsewhere. You would think that even after suffering at Cannae, they would pull troops away, like gave up the Illyrian War and all that. But no, they actually sent, you know, they continued these wars. And it comes to the mentality of the Romans. The thing is that they were never going to give up. It was either you get destroyed, they get destroyed. Which, that is why personally, I felt Hannibal never really had a chance. Because Hannibal thought in terms of the older civilizations. When you look at the Greeks, and then the successor Diadochi and all, what will happen, you fight a major battle, the side that loses, you are given terms and you accept the terms. Especially, basically like the Greeks, right? And that's what Hannibal did. He won Cannae, he sent, you know, terms to the Romans, and the Romans didn't agree to it. Which was totally surprising for everybody. So, the thing is that Hannibal always had that mindset. I think he truly felt he didn't need to wipe out Italy. And he wanted just to get terms. But unfortunately, the thing is that the Romans were never going to give terms. So that's why it kept dragging on and on and on. And that's also why that the allies of Rome, for the most part, stuck with Rome. You know, and the thing is, Rome itself could not keep that kind of manpower after like the Cannae disaster, Lake Tyrus. I mean, they kept replacing their legions. But the thing is that all this conscription came from the allies. The allies stuck with them, I think, for a simple reason. They know that the Romans don't give up. And you think you ally with Carthage, that's treason. And when they retake your town, it's over for you. Alright, it's slavery and everything like that. And here's the thing. Hannibal can leave. You can't. So I think that's one of the real big determining factors why a lot of allies decided, you know what? For good or bad, I think we better stick it out with the Romans, because they're probably, even if they win or lose, are gonna be around. Which is one of those interesting facts when you start reading the histories, really does come out that people started to learn that the Romans don't give up. I mean, famous story, not in the wars with Hannibal, was a Roman general was besieging a city, and then they said, we had enough food for 10 years. And then the Roman general just shouted back, well, we're gonna stick here for 11 years then. And the city gave up. So, you know, another show of Rome, how Rome was truly determined. And the last one, of course, is the one that tends to skim over. I don't know how many times I've seen this, but somehow I just never registered in my brain till later on, was that Hannibal didn't really, you know, most of the time when the minute you hear about the Zama, the documentary kind of skips over it pretty fast, but Hannibal actually lived quite a long time after Zama. He actually went to Antiochus, and then he went to Bithynia, where he was finally betrayed by the king there to Rome, and he took poison and died. So thus ended the life of one of the greatest generals in all history. In fact, Hannibal actually kind of sped up Rome's expansion, in my view. I mean, this is voiced in one documentary I saw where they said Hannibal caused so much destruction and put so much fear in Rome that they never wanted to allow a situation where another Hannibal could come about. So the minute they get attacked, the minute they even are provoked into any situation that they feel is hostile, the people can easily be put into a fever pitch, and every general will then say like, oh no, look, now this land, there might be another Hannibal there. The people get aroused, Senate agrees, and then they send off more armies. It sped up Rome's expansion because they started to get so scared that if they allowed any time for any other nation to build up, that they could invade Italy again. So there you go. That's behind the theme, Hannibal Barca. Less known facts. When you play these games, you are trying to learn history, and I think things get really interesting when you play, and then you get to trade information with people to learn about history. And I hope these little facts also encourages people to go and read more about Hannibal, because he is a very interesting person, and you know, there's actually a lot of, you know, differing views. So with that, behind the theme, thank you very much. Till next word.